let's talk about, first of all, what is wet plate?
I never really studied photography. I never really learned about the old techniques. It's pretty much the most difficult photography technique there is.
You have one original, it's one of one, that's it.
Is it good? Is it good? Is it not? Did she move? Did she blink? Is it sharp or not, you know?
You must have failed a lot.
Yeah, oh my God. You work with the raw chemicals, which some of them are very dangerous, you know.
My goodness.
Now you can do prints differently. You don't need that negative anymore.
What are you looking for when you're thinking about the pose?
What I'm trying to do is like...
Do you worry about kind of where photography's going?
Where it's going, yeah.
Stephan Kotas is a Prague-born photographer whose artistry spans continents and centuries. After a thriving career in fashion and commercial photography, he felt a shift with the digital era, prompting him to rediscover the enchantment of wet plate photography, a technique from the 1800s surpassed quickly by other modern formats. Immersed in a 5-year quest to bring this forgotten process to Indonesia, Stephan overcame extreme and lengthy challenges in the tropical climate, crafting his own unique way of doing things, including bespoke chemical solutions and darkroom setups. His silver portraits of Indonesian people developed in the field with antique wooden cameras have captivated the art world, reflecting his dedication to preserving the nation's diverse cultures on large format silver plates. And this podcast episode is a bit of a deeper dive into this whole wet plate process. It was certainly a learning experience for me and one of real intrigue, so much so I'm going to go and see him and his process at his studio. So stay tuned for that video. But for now, I bring you Stephan Kotas. Welcome to the Mood Podcast.
Thank you. Thanks
Pleasure
for
to have
having
you
me.
here. Thanks for taking the time. I know you're a busy man and you live not too close to here, but appreciate you taking the time. I wanted to kick things off with, I guess, a way to kind of introduce yourself. We're going to talk about your uniqueness as a person and photographer, which truly fascinates me. But give me a background as to who you are in the photography space and how you kind of got into it.
Yeah, so I've been doing digital photography since I was like 18, 19, for like last 20 years almost. I started as a travel documentary photographer, or I love traveling, you know, that's how I started.
Okay.
So since high school, I've been like traveling around Europe. I'm from Czech Republic. So I've been like hitchhiking around Europe, and then I would be going to Morocco, and then I was like 18, 19, and I was thinking, I want to go next on next like big adventure, you know, after I finish high school. And I was planning to go to Indonesia. I was like, that was my dream since a little kid. I love traveling and was always like reading travel books and adventure travel kind of things. So my dream was Indonesia. So I started learning Indonesian language in Prague. That time, there was I just found like some little book, and there was one old lady who was teaching Indonesian language in Prague. So I phoned her that time. I found her in the phone book. She was very old. She was like
phone book. Remember phone books?
There was the phone book. Yeah, it was like
great.
It was 2003, 2004
Yeah.
when I came here, and so with her I got some private lessons. I started learning Indonesian, and through her actually help, I got into scholarship program through Indonesian embassy, and I got scholarship here. So I actually didn't come here to travel, and I just came here for a scholarship program straight away for 1 year in Jogja. And from there, I just fell in love with Indonesia. I started traveling constantly, just traveling around Indonesia, kind of like you do probably now. And started doing pictures there, landscapes, and mostly travel documentary pictures, landscape people. That's how I started with photography. I never really studied. I just learned myself from internet, from, just practicing and learning a bit of like Photoshop editing at the time. It was 2004. Got my first camera, DSLR, Nikon. And from there, I tried to explore more. Like I always try to learn new things, just like online or wherever. And I started doing more fashion. I started doing fashion. I live in
Mhm.
Jakarta for a while, doing fashion, commercial photography, art nude. I shoot a lot of art nude, and just anything. Yeah, just always learning new techniques and things. And I didn't start wet plate until like 6-7 years ago. That was only when I started doing wet plate and the weird kind of techniques. Until then, I was just the document, like digital photographer and doing like commercial works. Yeah.
I'm interested to know kind of why Indonesia. What is it about this place that really sparks your interest and passion?
Well, Indonesia, yeah, I feel like at home here. After I live here 20 years, so
In Bali, you lived 20 years.
I studied in Jogja. That's where I got my scholarship.
Yeah.
I spent 1 year there. That's where I learned Indonesian as well. So there was Java for 1 year, and it's Java still have like special place in my heart because like the first place where I kind of get to know Indonesia and the Javanese culture, and Jogja is like the center of Indonesian education. Yeah. So I spent 1 year there, and then I moved to Bali. I spent 2 years living in Bali. I was doing travel. I just looked for any job I could do here, to live here.
Mhm.
So I was doing travel guiding mostly. I work for a travel agency and doing like travel guiding and taking people around Bali and then around Indonesia as well. And then I moved to Jakarta. I live in Jakarta
Oh, okay.
around 6 years. I was working there. I was doing modeling there as well.
Okay.
I was working on TV, like in front of camera as well.
Wow.
I used to do presenting. I had a travel show actually.
Did you?
I had a travel show
I didn't know that.
on Trans TV. Yeah,
Oh, cool.
I did like it's like a travel show for like Indonesian. Yeah, it's like Indonesian market. Yeah, we had like a Saturday morning slot, so I would be traveling. That's why I stayed there in Jakarta so long actually, because I like the job. So we would be shooting 1-2 episodes per month. I would be going around Indonesia and do a travel show. That was fun. And then I was doing photography as well, but not like full time. So I'll be shooting like fashion mostly, and always would be like working on my art on the side, just mostly art nudes and landscapes and travel photography. Just be traveling all the time wherever I could, around Indonesia. And after only that, I moved back to Bali like 10-12 years ago, and since then I live here now. Yeah.
Cool. What is it? I think you.
But I didn't answer that question. Yeah, why Indonesia?
Yeah. I think I know the answer. I've done enough research on it. I think that's where, and we were talking off air, we have a little bit in common in that respect. The cultures here, the subcultures, the history, the diversity, certainly with the people, especially when you think of portrait photography, right? The fascination with the different types of people. I mean, I'm putting answers in your mouth, but for me, that's it. Is it similar? Is it similar to you? Is that where the interest?
It's mostly the diversity, right?
Yeah.
For anybody who likes different cultures and traveling, like Indonesia is the holy grail because you get so many here, like hundreds of languages and ethnic groups and cultures and all the religions, so many different landscapes, right? So especially in Southeast Asia, I think whatever any other country has, Indonesia has it better,
Yeah.
Like for me, there's no point go to Thailand and you can find temples better here, or you can volcanoes, jungle. Go to Papua, you find primitive tribes.
Yeah.
That's everything. So
It does, yeah.
and you can spend your whole life exploring it. I spent 20 years and it's not enough yet.
Yeah.
So
I
much.
love that about this place.
So much,
throw in
yeah.
the underwater world as well. That's some of the best diving in the world.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
nature here is incredible.
What is your favorite part of Indonesia?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I love Bali, obviously. I think close to here, Lombok is something that is still very untouched, and it still has so much potential. I mean, it's stunning. The people there are different, but extremely kind and very welcoming. Past that, I've been lucky enough to do a few trips to Raja, to Komodo, and they take my breath away. Those places really I love scuba diving. So if I'm traveling, I'm trying to combine both above water photography and underwater photography.
Okay.
So I'll, hopefully everywhere I go is both scenically beautiful, but also rich in the tapestry of the human nature and wildlife and everything. And Indonesia is the best place for all of that, right? But
Yeah,
yeah, I'd
Raja
say,
Ampat is the best.
it's just incredible. It really is takes my breath away. But I could go back there every week if I could. Tell me about the journey from. We're going to get onto wet plate in a minute because I think a lot of people don't know what wet plate processing, wet plate photography, however you want to label it, is. But tell me about kind of the journey to get up to that. How did you go from fashion photography, landscape, travel photography into finding this old, unique, wonderful process of photography? What was the journey?
Yeah, so I never really studied photography. I never really learned about the old techniques. Actually, when I was in high school, I did maybe a little bit of analog, and like I saw my father was developing a few times like his analog films, but I never really learned about that much. So I found it on the internet. I think my friend just sent me some video of a guy doing wet plate. Like it was like a YouTube video where he built his own camera in one day. He built a camera, he bought the chemicals, and like over a weekend he would make like a wet plate shoot and a wet plate image. And when I saw it, I was like, wow, oh my god, this is amazing. It was like the picture was like so beautiful, and the whole process, like when you're making it and you're making it with your own hands, it's very hands-on technique, and the look of it is just so different. And then you see the image come into life in front of you, it's in your hands. It's a physical image. It's not like computer screen and electronic file. So that was the first time actually, and I was like, he was like, hey, you should do it. And I was like, fuck no, I'm not like, this was like portrait technique. I wasn't really so much into portraits,
Okay.
because it feels like kind of boring to me. Like on digital, I was shooting people, but not like specializing in portraits. So I was like, nah, not really. But then I kind of just keep thinking about it and learning about it a bit. And what I find out that when you shoot wet plate, it's very technically difficult. It's pretty much the most difficult photography technique there is, and it's very unique. And one of the uniqueness there is you getting tintype. You can shoot tintype. You can shoot a direct positive image.
Okay.
So
stop. Let's talk about, first of all, what is wet plate, and second of all, what is tintype. Let's define those. Just for the audience a little before we continue about going.
Wet plate is wet plate. It's called wet plate Collodion photography. Wet plate Collodion process. Yep. So it's basically one of the oldest photography techniques. So to understand what it is, to understand how is it so unique, we need to like understand history of photography. So. Do you know like how old is the history of photography? When is the first photography?
1820, 1822?
Yeah,
something like that.
Like 1820s was like the first what we call a photograph.
Yeah.
Basically made. There was like some what is photography? Photography is recording light on some light sensitive material. So since thousands of years ago, people knew the concept of camera, camera obscura, of pinhole camera. That's the effect when the light comes through the tiny hole and it projects the image from the outside world on the wall. Or there would be like one big room like this, for example, and we would just make a small hole in the wall, and you would project the world outside. You would project on this wall here, and smaller version of that would be the camera, right? Be like this room, just in smaller, and you put the lens, and you project, the light comes through the lens, and you project the image on the big wall. So people knew about that. They used it for drawing, to make more realistic paintings and stuff like that, or just to look around. There would be like towers in the cities, and people would just be looking inside what is outside, So there was a known phenomenon of camera obscura. But the question is how to record the light, how to record the image that was created through the lens. And for that, you need light sensitive materials. So during 17th, 18th century, people start knowing there's like some chemicals that react on light.
Mm-hmm.
And they managed to record some images, to put the light sensitive material on that plane. And when the light hit it, they would just record that image. But the problem is they didn't know how to keep it, because you would take that image out on the light, it would still be sensitive to light and it would just disappear. It would never expose and it would disappear. So they were fighting with that for a few centuries probably. And they needed to figure out how to develop the image and how to fix it. Fixing is when you actually stop the chemicals from react on light. So so these images, these early images, you could they could record them, they would have them, but you need to keep them in the dark. And you could just show them to people like in a very dark room, just to look at it quickly, not to overexpose with light, and eventually they would disappear.
Okay.
But then came like the early 1820. It was the French guy who had this first picture, and he showed outside of the house. It was some kind of asphaltum. He used some kind of asphaltum that react on light. And that's kind of the first image that we know. And then the next technique was daguerreotype. There was the image made of mercury vapor and some silver-based chemicals. Like all these light-sensitive materials, like silver-based. And it was still very complicated. The exposure, it's very slow. You know, these techniques the ISO is very slow. So you have exposure times in matter of hours or days, you know. So with daguerreotype, it was mostly like minutes. You needed few minutes of exposure to create the light. And the next step was wet plate. And with the wet plate is basically kind of the first technique where we talk about like photography. That's when it become easier, much cheaper materials. And also they fasten the exposure times to a matter of seconds, few seconds or up to a minute. Yeah, depends how much light you have. And so it was 1853. Yeah, that's when wet plate comes to life. And the complexity of it is that you need it's called wet plate. It means that the chemicals are still wet. So you're working with the light sensitive chemicals.
Okay.
Which you take just on a normal plate, like size of your notepad there. You take aluminum plate or glass, which is like the vessel for the chemicals, and you pour liquid chemicals on it. You would pour the chemicals on it. It's a mix of collodion with salts.
Oh, so collodion is a type of chemical.
Collodion is just the vessel to bend it together. It's like glue, let's say.
Okay.
You premix the collodion with cadmium bromide, and there's different chemicals, ammonium iodide, and there's few recipes that you can do. And then you dip it in a silver nitrate. So it's a mix of these two chemicals basically that make the light sensitive film. So when these two chemicals mix, they start reacting on light. So when you prepare this plate in the dark room, you need to work in the dark room. When you take it out from the silver, it's already reacting on light. So you have to work in the dark room, switch on the safety light only, and you put it in a plate holder, and you will bring that plate to the camera. You put it in the camera, make the exposure, and bring it back to the dark room.
Okay, so the plate, just for people watching, is the tintype, right? The plate is the thing that the photograph gets exposed onto.
We call the result is tintype is when you shoot on black aluminum plates. That's what you call tintypes. If you shoot it on glass, you can shoot on glass.
Really?
It would called ambrotype.
Okay.
Depends on the vessel of the plate.
Okay. So you shoot on tintype.
I shoot mostly tintypes on black aluminum.
And you have some here, right?
I don't have the tintypes here.
Okay, you have
but I have some prints here.
Okay,
yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Okay.
But,
So you get the plate out of the camera.
Yeah.
Into a dark room.
You expose it in the camera, and you need to run straight to the dark room because the chemicals needs to stay wet. That's why we call it wet plate collodion.
Got it.
Because you work with wet chemicals, liquid chemicals.
Okay.
And you only have a limited amount of time before they dry to finish the whole reaction process to create the image. So that's why it's very hard to do in tropics, because the humidity and temperatures it's much higher here than Europe, and it's drying so quickly. So from the sensitizing, I have like 3 minutes to do the whole process. My model has to be ready. I have to quickly expose it. I have to run to the dark room and quickly develop it before it dries, unless there's no image,
Wow.
So you develop it. That's when the image kind of comes alive. You see it. It start appearing in front of your eyes. You have to stop it at the right moment, not to overdevelop it. Also,
what happens if you overdevelop it?
It would kind of disappear. It would just be very kind of foggy and low contrast.
Okay.
So you need to know when to stop it. And you already know in the development process if you're getting good image or not with the speed of the reaction. So it usually takes about 10 to 15 seconds. You see it appearing. If it's very slow, it doesn't. 15 seconds, 20 seconds, there's no image. Or very low, you see, that's underexposed. Okay. If it's too fast, it's overexposed. So you can adjust the exposure a little bit with the development. If it's overexposed in the camera, you can like do faster development and you still get like good exposure there. But anyway, after the development, you stop it with water, wash off the chemicals, and you put it in a fixer. And in a fixer, you get the positive image. And that's the reason why I do it. Why it caught my eye, especially, is the direct positive, because with this technique, you can do direct positive image. Normally, in most of photography techniques, right, you're doing negatives.
Yep.
You shoot negatives, and from that you make prints, which was what we were people doing from before as well, because they always wanted to do prints. They didn't want to do one piece. Yeah, they wanted to be able to distribute a number of images, in the prints and in the newspapers and everywhere. So that time they were not doing many direct positives, but now you can do prints differently. You don't need that negative anymore. So for me, there was like, wow, the direct positive is one piece of art. Is the uniqueness. It brings the art closer to painting, or it's an artifact that you can have the bigger value on the art market. Because before that, I was already like doing art photography, and I tried to do to sell my art in galleries. But photography has like different status in the art market because it's duplicable. Yeah, because when photography is not like one piece of statue, it's not one piece of painting, but you can bring one image 100 times, million times. So the buyer doesn't put a big value on that, right? So you can do limited prints, whatever, but it's still duplicable art. But with this thing, with this technique, when you do direct positive, it means that one thin type, that one positive image that comes straight from my camera, the silver plate, is only one. There's no other one like that, And that was like kind of piece of a puzzle that you can put a higher value on your art, which is not possible with digital photography, with digital prints and stuff like that. So it was one of the reasons why I actually looked into this. And the other reason is just the uniqueness of the images, the uniqueness of the look of how wet plate image look, because it has a distinctive look which you cannot fake with any other technique, with any editing, like analog film, whatever other film. You can kind of fake it with digital editing. Yeah, you can give the digital image the feel of analog, with the right editing, whatever. But the wet plate, you cannot fake it anywhere. Firstly, it's the physical image that you get, and secondly, this is what we call a blue light sensitive material, blue light sensitive film. So that's what gives a lot of it the unique look of it comes from that, because the chemicals that we use in wet plate, they only react on blue light, on the spectrum. There's a light spectrum, right? From the visible light spectrum, it's from red to yellow to green to blue, right? So these chemicals only react on the part of the blue spectrum, a little bit over that to the UV spectrum. Wow, so basically, it's actually reacting on invisible light that we cannot see with our eyes.
Right.
That's why the look of the pictures is so unique and so like weird to us when we look at it than normal black and white picture. So it means everything that is on the other part of the spectrum, like the yellows and the reds, they are black. The chemicals don't see them. So that's what's changing a lot the look of the people. Because for example, in your skin, there's a lot of red color, a lot of orange.
Yep.
Especially with the darker skin people, a lot of melanin people or tanned skin. So the more dark skin you have, the stronger will be this effect. That's why I like to shoot more like the dark skinned people, or in the Asian people looks, actually the effect is even stronger. The unique look of wet plate, I love that. And that's also something you need to think about when you shoot, that the whatever is red, whatever is yellow will be black basically.
Yeah. Okay.
The camera cannot see it. That's why we use red light in the darkroom, because it doesn't react on these chemicals. So that's another unique thing that I really like, that actually the result, you cannot fake it with any kind of editing or something like that. And then it's like so unique. Another unique thing about it is the way the chemicals flow. You're working with the liquid chemicals. It's very, it's different every time. There's like, it's a whole process of many steps of chemical reactions, and they are all altering the look of the final result. You're working with your hands, you're smelling the chemicals. Before every shoot, you mix your own solutions, basically. So it's never the same. It's never the same. The chemicals age. So if I mix them today, I shoot tomorrow, will be one thing. If I use 1 month old chemicals, will be a bit different. And so there's all these effects that make every piece like unique and different. And it's never perfect. There's always some dust. You try to be very clean with this technique. Because every little dust, your hair, whatever floats in the air, you can see it on the plate later on. And you also, the chemicals flowing, you have these edges. You can, if you pour the developer wrong, you will have like the stains of the developer and so many different things.
My goodness.
There's all these like chemical marks which make it, it's technically it's imperfection, but now and with the digital photography, we're so used to like perfect, sharp, crisp, contrasty images with vivid colors. So this is like so beautiful, when you actually see the imperfection, of these techniques.
Absolutely, that the perfection of imperfection is now something that's sought after, and artistically, it's of value, right? It's something that isn't being done by millions of people with the help of digital cameras that spray and pray. They don't really think about the shots. I mean, I imagine with your photos, before you even press that shutter button, you are super prepared with obviously your darkroom and chemicals ready to go, but with the subject as well. I mean, how does your preparation get affected? Or no, I'll rephrase it. What is your preparation like with the subject if you've got them ready to go in front of the camera, or how do you get them ready? Is it just you've got one shot essentially? You can't take, or can you take a couple and then go and develop them quickly? Or
No, you do one shot per time. Yeah. So
wow.
It's a lot of preparation. Like I don't actually shoot too often. Firstly, it's very expensive. Every plate costs you a lot, especially here in Indonesia, where I'm importing most of the chemicals, and it's just to get the chemicals, it's very hard. It's very hard. In Europe, US, you can buy them in a shop. I mean, it's not too many shops anymore who sell it, but you can still get them. Here is nothing like that. So I cannot buy the solutions. What I do is I get the raw chemicals. So actually, what I had to learn here to do it here, I had to learn to mix the solutions also. Which is the whole next like profession, like chemistry.
Did you know anything about chemistry before this?
No, I hated chemistry. Yeah. I hated it in high school. My mom was like, "Wow, what are you doing now?" Because I was always like the worst in chemistry, and I'm surprised I don't enjoy it, but I kind of learn what I need, and it's become interesting, right? But it's very hands on, but there was another actually thing that I had to learn to do it, to successfully do wet plate in Indonesia took me 6-7 years to where I'm now. Very slow progress, and it's a lifelong project. Like it's so many things. Every shoot, I see some problems, and you try to solve them, and It's like never ending problem solution, solving. But yeah, so before every shoot, you need to make your own solutions first. So
Okay.
you work with the raw chemicals, which some of them are very dangerous, flammable, explosive, very poisonous, cancerous. You have to be very careful with that. It's another thing. And
Just a small thing.
and so you need to get your chemicals ready. Another thing is the shoot itself. When you shoot models, or when I shoot my portraits, I teach the models about the process, how we do it. I have
Yep.
kind of like a routine now, but it's very different from a digital shoot. It's very slow process. I always tell the models to be patient, just kind of expect you'll be doing a lot of waiting, a lot of sitting in one pose, because first thing is the styling. Yeah, you pick the styling. I kind of do that ahead. I know what I want to do. What kind of costume? If I do a lot of traditional costumes, right? So we prepare the costume. I usually have a stylist. We do the look, yeah. But then we pick the pose, yeah. With these old techniques, when you look at old pictures, it's always very simple, actually, very stiff poses, yeah.
Mhm.
Because it's long exposure.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot do like, you don't have much choice with the pose. It has to be very steady pose, which the model can hold for at least few seconds, That's why you do neutral expressions usually. You don't do smiles much, because it looks unnatural when people hold a smile for 5 seconds, It's like,
Yeah.
so you do it
And there's
usually,
moving and
you do, yeah. You do usually very neutral expressions, and that's the thing. The hardest thing is to get a sharp image with this technique, because to do my exposures are around 3, 5, 7 seconds, depends on how much sun I have, because the ISO of the chemical is like 1.5 or something like that. So it's like, let's say 50 times less sensitive than ISO 100. Yeah, it's very slow. So in here, when it's sunshine, when it's full direct sun, I get around 2-3 seconds.
Okay.
If it gets cloudy, it's like 5-6 seconds. I just look at the sky. I know, like, you cannot measure the light much. You don't measure the light. There's no
I was
light
going to say
meter.
no light meter. You don't have a separate light meter or anything?
Yeah, because it's react on the UV light only. So it's not
yeah.
really a light meter for that. So I just kind of know by practice now. You just look at the sky and you kind of guess the exposure.
And then you said in the development process, you can kind of
you
guess
can
immediately, like, oh, I need to develop this a bit faster or a bit slower.
Sometimes you would, I don't do it anymore, like test play to check the light, because I kind of know, but you cannot measure the exposure much. It's
Okay.
by experience, basically, which takes some time.
I was going to say, you must have failed a lot.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Hundreds of plates at home, which are,
Wow.
But it's not only about the exposure. It's the easier thing. It's mostly about the chemical combinations and recipes, and because you get like 5-6 chemical reactions, which needs to successfully create the image. And if there's one problem, you don't know where it is, or it's sometimes hard to find where is the problem, which reaction is the problematic one. So you just do constant like trials, where you like change one thing and then change this and then you're looking for the mistake. But then every chemical batch that you make is different, so it's never ending. It's so hard, man.
Hey guys, before I let you continue with the video, just indulge me for a few minutes. I want to briefly talk about my new brand, Yore. Founded with my business partner and photographic artist, Finn Matson, we're proud to bring you a new artisanal jewelry and specialty coffee brand. Yep, what on earth do they have to do with each other or anything at all? Well, they're both our passions. They've always been another artistic outlet for me, now for over a decade. So for those that know me, coffee has been my other obsession since I was young. And as a result of it, I'm a qualified SCA coffee specialist. So when I met Finn, some of you might have seen my podcast with him when we barely knew each other, our love for art and jewelry had a home. And that home is here, House of Yore. Yore is, amongst others, an artisan jewelry label, and it's all about the art of intent for everything that we do. Our intention with Yore was to add a touch of celestial elegance and artistic expression to our visual narratives. Every jewelry piece is a statement, a reflection of your unique story and purpose. It's not just about jewelry, it's a wearable piece of art that speaks volumes. Picture this: silver or gold adorned with an actual piece of lunar meteorite. That's right, straight from our moon, making every piece as unique as the moments that we usually capture through our lenses. From limited edition lunar jewelry pieces to finely crafted 925 sterling silver and gold rings, pendants and chains, there's something for all of you in our unique designs. We're also committed to the environment as much as possible. Our coffee is direct trade, organically produced and locally farmed, minimizing impact on the environment as much as possible. Our jewelry packaging is all sustainable and recycled, other than the moon rock, of course. Proudly eco-friendly in both packaging and jewelry production, you can feel good about looking good. And to top it off, we offer free worldwide shipping, ensuring that a piece of lunar beauty can grace your collection no matter where life takes you. And if you ever find yourself here in Bali, please come and visit us. Our cafe and community-driven art house is a haven for creatives just like you. So before we head back into the video, please just take a moment to explore Yore's collection. And as a special treat for you, my wonderful audience, Yore is offering an exclusive discount. Head over to our website and use the code below for a 10% discount off your jewelry purchase. The link and details are in the description. Anyway, thanks so much for listening, and I'll let you get back to the video now. Tell us a bit more about the camera then. So when you've got the subject ready to go, you've briefed them, it's a large format camera, right? What is the
let's
size
get to
of
the shoot. Like when I get the model, I style up, then I will sit her, I will pose her. So we decide what pose we're gonna do, what angle. I find her angle, let's say frontal or side pose, like 45 or something.
What are you looking for when you're thinking about the pose?
Depends, like how she looks well, or what's her angle, what do we want to show, if we have like earrings, or what kind of styling, if we want to show the hair from the side or frontal, few different things. What is the lighting, if it's better for like side light portrait or top light portrait, or what
so
is...
your intent with the pose is, okay, get the person and get some kind of visual story with that person, but it's more about the traditional clothing, or what is the purpose that you're trying to get with
what I'm trying to do is like cultural portrait, like traditional portraits of Indonesian ethnic groups. That's basically what I focusing on. So I'm showing the costume. I'm showing the costume, the look of... I want it to be like when let's say I shoot Balinese girl in, could be wedding costume or dance costume. It should show in one image to have like, okay, this is Bali, I look for models also in that way, like to have the Balinese look, different from Javanese, for us, if you live here longer, you can tell the difference of Balinese, Javanese, Sumatra, of course, Papua and other ethnic groups, right? So try to look for the typical face of that ethnic, but okay, when I shoot, like you get the pose, and then what is very hard is the camera. The camera is big, it's a large format. It's big, it's heavy, it's sitting on a tripod. It's very hard to frame it, to get the level, to get the height of the camera, to get the angle to the model, because you're looking at it on the ground glass. That's like the ground glass at the back of the big camera is the glass where the image is reflected, and that's where you like go under the blanket and looking at that. You cover yourself with like dark clouds to see the reflection of the image on the back of the camera, and it takes like few minutes, or can be 5, 10, 15 minutes to set the camera on the tripod in the exactly right angle when the model needs to hold the pose, so she needs to be patient. She's just sitting there in her pose, and I'm like angling the camera, and that's the one shot. And when I get the angle, I also putting like a brace holder. You put a brace holder on her neck.
I saw that,
because that's for the reference of her position. She cannot move from that place because you're focusing. It's very narrow depth of field, I'm using the antique lenses, like old lenses, which adding to the beautiful, unique look of the wet plate. Because it's these old lenses, they are imperfect. You would say imperfect. They are very narrow depth of field, and they are usually only sharp. They are very sharp, but only in the middle.
Yeah.
And towards the edges of the image, it's blurring.
Okay.
They making the old Petzval lenses. They make like a circular blur, which is
Like a vignette.
really beautiful and really special. And that's why it's also very much portrait technique, because in portraits you can work with that. Just have a part of the image sharp and a lot of blur around. And this also, when you look at the old pictures or portraits, you will see they framing it differently. They framing the person in the middle. You don't frame it in 2/3 like you would do in digital mostly, like framing the image in 2/3 the face, but you framing it more in the middle of the frame, because that's where it's the sharpest.
Okay.
So yeah, you would frame the camera, and then I usually tell her, I explain to her how what is gonna happen next. I did it this morning. I just had to shoot. Yeah. So it's every time you shoot with new models, you always have to explain to them.
Yep.
So basically, after I frame it, then I need to go to darkroom. Then I need to go to darkroom to sensitize the plate. That's when I'm doing the puring and dipping in the silver. That's when you're creating the light sensitive film. And it takes me like 5 minutes in the darkroom to prepare the liquid film. And because it's wet plate, I only have, like I told you, 3, 4, 5 minutes before it dries. So when I come off the darkroom, everything needs to be very quick. It's like like one step after another. So I prepare her first. When I come out, you need to be sitting here with the brace holder. Get your position very quick. I quickly refocus the camera, and then I put the plate on the back of the camera. I close the lens. Because how we do exposure here, there's no shutter, there's no shutter with the old cameras, because there's no long, fast shutter speeds. It's very long shutter speed, right? So you only do the exposure with the taking of the lens cap.
Okay.
That's how you let the light in.
Okay.
Because there's enough time. So I take off the lens cap. That's where the exposure starting. The lights start coming into the camera, and you just count. I just look at the sky. I see 3, 4, 5 seconds, how much I need.
Amazing.
I tell her, okay, freeze, don't move, open the lens, and I just count. And she needs to be frozen. She cannot blink, she cannot breathe. Like, I tell her just to totally freeze if possible. And then when I cover the lens back, we're done, and we need to rush to the darkroom to quickly develop. Wow. Because the plate is drying, the clock is ticking, so I need to develop it. And then when you develop it, you see it looks like a negative image basically first, and then you put it in the fixer, where you wash off the unexposed silver, and then you see the clear positive image. Yeah.
So if that doesn't come out as expected, you just do it again?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. That's why you do a lot of preparation. You just do a lot of briefing.
Yeah.
You make sure you like what you see. You make sure the styling is good. You make sure the angle is good, because every image cost me, I counted it, I think like $20, $30 for one plate, just for the materials, and the whole process is like 20 minutes usually.
And are these
so if she moved, if she blinked,
yeah,
she owes you $30.
Yeah. Are these clients paying you for these generally, these photos, or is it more of a personal passion thing?
It's more personal. I like to shoot personal images.
Yeah.
I don't do many private, like, commercial portraits. I don't focus on that. But sometimes people want it, and I do it for them. I shoot it, but firstly, it's difficult because people see my images and they love them and they think, oh, I want to do this, it's so cool, but they don't know how they're gonna look. It's changing the look of people very much, so it's not guaranteed, especially for girls, that they will like how they look on it themselves, because it's changed their skin. And especially with girls, it's bringing your imperfection more, not making you more beautiful. It makes you more ugly, your wrinkles come out more, every spots on your skin. freckles, makes you look older in general. Like the whole look of that image is like old school, yeah, and it 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 in general makes you look a bit older than you are. With guys, it's actually better. Like guy portraits with this technique, you look kind of more cool and rigid and like like more. It brings some character out.
Okay.
So, but it's kind of tricky with the people, and then I don't want them to be unhappy with the picture, and then they have to pay me, and then they don't pay me. I lose a lot of money and time, So I don't focus on that. I focus more on my art. But I do pride portraits once in a while also.
Can we see a couple of your images?
Yeah.
So I love the look of them, and what sparks my interest about this is just the authenticity of it. And when you said it's like more like a painting, I mean, just you explaining that process from start to finish it's just like a painting, right?
It's you put a lot of focus on one frame.
Yeah, and it's so manual. Everything is so manual. Right?
Yeah,
you are creating from start to finish.
I have like these few postcards, which is some of my like favorite portraits from recent times.
Oh.
And behind every good one is like 10, 20 bad ones,
Well, that's even with me in digital photography.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Yeah, it's gorgeous. I love just the tones. They're just so nice.
Yeah. What is
this border? This kind of these are the imperfections you're talking about.
That's like the flow of the chemicals. You can see this is when you're pouring the plate. That's how the chemicals flow around, and then they don't always reach the edge of the plate. So that's what creates these borders.
But that adds so much character to the images.
Yeah, I kind of actually you can do it perfectly. But I don't worry about it much. I kind of want to keep it around there because from there you can see it's a wet plate as well.
That's
and
fucking
then you have
insane.
Like different marks. Like
so
you can
cool.
see sometimes the developer flowing if you make a mistake.
Yeah, you can see her
a lot
skin
of dust and scratches.
Yeah, I love that.
But
it's very nostalgic.
Yeah, it's because the look of it is just so unique and beautiful. But yeah, you would need to. It's so different. That's why I like to do like BTS, like videos to people to see what our eyes see, the reality, and then what the wet plate camera see, because it's so different.
Wait, why? This is color.
This is a different technique, yeah.
And I see what you mean here by the kind of this blurry vignetting on the lens. Her face is sharp, but everything else is. I mean, maybe she was moving a bit, but that might be the lens.
This was actually pretty long exposure. I always wanted to have a picture of like girl carrying water, because like a common theme from like 19th century or early 20th century Indonesia, when like there will be women work to like carry water. It's like common shot you can see, like women with the water vessels. So I was trying to shoot this, and finally I get it with Lola. I love this picture. Some of my favorite from recent time. And it's very hard. It was already dark. It was afternoon. It was like 7-8 seconds, but she held it still like very well. It's very sharp, and it's not easy because she has to balance the vessel. It's heavy, It wasn't full of water, but it's still kind of heavy, and it's hard not to move,
For people watching, we're going to put these on the screen. For people listening, we'll put the link to your site. So
it's only part of the story if you only listen, right?
Yeah. There's something about portraits that, me being a portrait photographer, I'm biased, but looking at these, obviously they're incredible photos. Something about human faces that just give so much depth and spark. Yeah, they're posing. Yeah, it's staged, but that for me just even adds more, because you're focusing so much on their face and what is behind those eyes, right? What is going on in their head. Add in the cultural kind of nuances with their clothes and stuff like that. It just adds for such a. And then you add in the aesthetics of your processing. It's just fantastic. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, I trying to style it with the theme of the ethnic culture. Like this is Java. This is Javanese model with the Javanese carved window. This is Ariel. She's like a famous actress, so she has the Javanese background. So we decided to shoot like Javanese style. Yeah, again like the Javanese chair, Javanese dress. So yeah, to keep it in that style, because what I'm trying to do is follow the 19th century look. Yeah.
Okay.
Because this is 19th century technique, and this technique has not been done much in Indonesia because, as I told you, I come from 1850s.
Yep.
But it was only practiced for a short period of time, maybe like 20 years, before they come up with new technique and easier techniques. The techniques where you don't need to develop the picture straight away. That's the hardest thing about wet play. Basically, you need to shoot with your darkroom. You cannot just go in the field and shoot and develop it next week or next month. You need to have a darkroom where you shoot, which is very impractical. So
Well, yeah, I was going to ask you about when you go on location. If you're going, obviously not everyone's coming to you all the time.
yeah, so far,
Tell
yes.
us about.
I don't shoot on locations.
Oh, you do not?
Yeah, I
I
mean,
thought
wet play, I just shoot at my studio pretty much all the
Okay.
time. To shoot on location is a whole another story, a whole another headache and expense, and that's something I am trying to do, and it's my goal for the future to be traveling with this technique. But I only did it like twice, and it's you bring your darkroom to the field, so you bring a lot of things. You bring chemicals, you bring a lot of equipment, you bring big cameras, and I bring like a tent. Usually people use depends how big is your large format, but I do like 6x8.
Yep.
Which is I do like a big tent, like it's like a fishing tent, which is very dark inside, but it's so much more difficult than shooting in my studio because everything changes. In my studio, I kind of have my routine and everything is kind of set up already. When I shoot away, it's hard. Usually the temperatures are different. I stay in my darkroom. I have aircon and I have exhaust and this, and then the tent. It just gets so hot and humid, and the chemical smell is super strong. Even I lose like what do you call it, like a mask.
Mask, and you're sweating.
You're sweating, and everything is so fast. The hotter the temperature, the faster every reaction is. So you used to certain routine, and then this changes, and it's just so hard. And and it's like small there. So that's my kind of next goal is to upgrade my technique to that and start traveling with it. But I haven't done it much, and that's that's the complexity of wet play. That's why it's so hard, and that's why it's so complicated, and that's why nobody really shooting it unless you're crazy, Yeah,
but that's even I shoot medium format, but digital, Hasselblad medium format, and it's for me like it's so much more of a mindful experience, and you have to so much thought goes into it because it's not a digital camera like we know these days with all the functions and automatic this and that. You have to just think about it more. But that's compared to this, it's fucking easy, right?
And I think it's like as complicated as wet play. It's really crazy.
But that adds uniqueness, and I think that's so important as an artist to have some level of uniqueness. To be truly original is, I think, very difficult, but to at least be unique in your genre. And this is, if you took this, started being able to take it on location, that would just add a completely different level to your uniqueness as a photographer.
That's sure. Definitely my next goal, because I've done a lot of like portraits in the studio. I want to do some landscape because it's a good technique for landscapes also. I want to shoot. One of my next dreams is to go to Java and shoot the old temples, like Java Hindu temples, and just go all around Indonesia. For the next 20 years of my life, I'll be like, I want to go to Sumba, shoot the people there, the shamans there, the women and everybody. Go to Papua, go to Dayaks, go to Bataks, shoot, basically create a body of work of Indonesian ethnic groups in their traditional costumes, shot on wet plate, because it's something that hasn't been done yet.
Yep.
It's
I don't think many actually, because my dream is something very similar, but not on wet plate. More about the the people and those ethnic groups and their specific practices, what they do as their ancient practices as a culture. But I don't see many bodies of work doing that. You see other countries, especially African countries, people going to like Ethiopia, Rwanda, or wherever these places, and they and they do these beautiful books and beautiful bodies of work, and they're amazing. But I don't see many of Indonesia. I see a lot of travel photographers do landscape stuff, see that all the time. But in terms of the people and the diversity of the cultures and the ethnic groups here, I haven't come across many. There's been some documentaries and obviously people have shot a lot here, but for me as well, I'd love to just do the whole of this country somehow before I die, and just photograph as much of it before, like we're talking off air, before it really just gets modernized. And a lot of these,
it's losing, the culture is disappearing very
Yeah.
quickly. Like,
yeah, I know. So I'm worried. Like, come on, I need to get going. I need to see all these people.
when
and
you like, I love Sumba, for example, and I was there first time 20 years ago. It was just one flight a week, to go to Sumba. It was very far, even though it's just one flight from Bali, right?
Mhm.
And I went to shoot Pasola there on digital, the Pasola festival, and there was just me and National Geographic there. I was like almost no tourists, and compared with Sumba now, like the young culture, young generation, they losing so much culture in just one generation. It keeps disappearing, and the languages keep disappearing, and traditions, which is I mean, the people's life is getting better in a way, but the loss of culture and traditions is also like, it's a significant loss for humanity, I guess.
That's a good way of putting it. I mean, on one hand, it's good for the people that their standard of living is increasing, generally speaking. But for us and for just depth of humanity, right? We want to be able to have these cultures still around and celebrate them and experience them. And that's what travel's really all about, right? Traveling and experiencing different cultures. And if they all get eroded and they all end up, TikTok generation, then I don't know what is left for society. How do you, with your kind of 1850s methodology with photography and, wanting to preserve that way of photographing, do you try and translate that into the modern world in terms of, I know you're obviously active on social media and you're trying to, certainly do BTS and maybe educate a little bit more about this process. Is that a big part of your thought process and goals for the future, is to kind of expose this to more people?
Yeah, I want to do the body of work. That's why, like, my main goal is, it's like my I find my purpose, kind of life purpose, in this technique, and in having the chance to do something that hasn't been done before, which is it's very rare and it's very hard to find. And I feel very lucky actually to have found this, But so what I want to do is try to shoot as many ethnic groups and cultures of Indonesia on this medium over the years. And that's gonna be, every trip out of my studio is a big trip. It's expensive trip. It's like, just imagine bringing like 200-300 kilo of equipment and chemicals to like Sumba and be there probably like a month and try to get like 10-20 good plates. That's like, it'll be like old school expeditions, and the old school photographers in 19th century go in the Wild West, in the Wagon, and just go from city to city and try to sell some images to people. So that's what I want to do. And what did you ask? What I want to, what I'm doing with it? I'm just I'm doing prints. I'm starting to work with galleries.
Cool.
I sell prints in the galleries. I do sell the originals also, the tintypes. Sometimes, not too many. But I'm trying to make it profitable to get the money going, so I can just keep doing that. So I'm selling the original tintypes also sometimes, but they are quite expensive, and I feel sad sometimes to let them go, because they're so special.
Yeah,
there's not many photographers in the world that do wet plate, and most of them, not everybody's selling actually the originals, the tintypes also. Because it's like the one piece, right? It's the baby,
You could keep that for 20 years and imagine the value of it. And
that's another thing about it. The wet plate image, or the tintype, it's the most durable form of image that we have until now.
Really?
There is nothing more durable than that, a physical image, because it's an image that is made of, it's on metal or glass, which is very durable materials, and it's made of silver. So these are very durable materials. if you compare it with the prints, right, on a paper, with ink or something, like your prints will fade in 10, 20 years. They will, unless you keep them in some super good archive with no humidity, maybe 100 years. But the original tintypes or the glass negatives, they should last hundreds and thousands of years. So like when you look at the old pictures from 19th century, they look the same now as they looked before, and they will probably keep looking that way for many hundreds of years. Like famous tintype is the portrait of Abraham Lincoln, for example, from US.
Okay.
Or there's few like famous tintypes that has been done, and you can still look them up in some archives or museums. And what is interesting that until now, like governments, they're using this technique to archive like very important documents on this medium, because it's very, very durable form of image, comparing to any prints or anything. So that's another level of that is interesting. Yeah, but I'm trying to do prints also, because like I have the direct positive from the camera, right? But it's a small image. It's as big as my camera, because you do it on the back of your camera. So as big as your camera, that's the size of your tintype. So, which is kind of small to put on the wall.
Yeah.
So I also do prints, and I like to do different kind of prints, like on like handmade papers. I use a banana paper.
Cool.
I have some new papers now I'm trying now, and do like the classic printing techniques, not just like digital prints, but I've just recently been doing like gum oil prints and cyanotype prints and maybe silk screen, and just different types of contact printing, which is again handmade, because my images are handmade. So I just wanna, when I make a print, I also want to make it like the old school, like craft kind of work of art. Yeah, not just a digital print. Yeah.
So how do you get it from tintype to digital print? Is it just as simple as scanning?
I just scan it. Yeah, I scan it with a digital camera.
Okay.
I have like a setup for that I do, because it's very reflective. I should bring you the tintype, but I didn't think about it actually. Sorry, because the tintype is it's very reflective. When you look at it, it's on black aluminum, and the image is made of silver. But it depends on how the light reflecting on it, you see it a bit differently. So it's very reflective. So I have like a setup that I do not to get the best out of the image. So I scan it with a digital camera, and then I have big digital file which I can print easily. Or for the contact printing techniques, you can now do digital negative. So you just print it on a transparent sheet. You flip it in Photoshop to a negative image, and you print it on transparent sheet. So you get coded digital negative. So you can make any size. You can make big ones. So you can make big contact prints from that.
Got it.
So that's why I can shoot the tintypes. I can shoot the positives, because before people were focusing on getting negatives and making prints of that. But now you can get negative the other way. So
how do you fund this? I mean, you still do commercial photography work, right? Is that something that's...
I don't do it as much anymore. I used to do commercial digital for a long time. I used to do a lot of fashion and resorts in Bali, lifestyle. But I never really liked it so much, Like I always like to do my own project, my own concepts and art direction and everything. But so I do it less and less, and just I don't know. I just try to, when I have money, I spend it on this, And then sometimes I start selling prints. Sometimes I make money from selling prints, and just try to make the ends meet, and keep going with that. And it's kind of slowly getting bigger and bigger, but basically I'm still at the beginning. Like for last 6-7 years, I've been just learning the technique. Actually, just like last year, I would say I learned this technique to be confident, to be able to produce the good quality of image, like steadily, to be able to keep doing it and in a good level of quality, the image. And that took me a long time because of the difficulty, because this technique do it in Europe is hard, but it's you can learn it over a weekend. The technique. If you have the chemicals and everything, you can do a workshop, and you will learn it over a weekend, like the technical things. But to do it in tropics, it's just a whole different level. It's the humidity and the temperatures here just make it impossible. I had to come up with with new like chemical formulas and change the process of the whole reactions to make it work here. That's what took me so long, and that's why nobody do it here, because it was like considered like pretty much impossible or very very hard, and you cannot get the chemicals, so it's just constant. You just constantly have some headache, with this, and then you shoot for a while, and then your chemicals are finished, and then you try to get more chemicals, and you cannot find them, and you cannot ship them because they are dangerous, so nobody will ship them to you from abroad. And if somebody will ship them, they are fucking expensive, because it's just import, and
you have to pay tax in Bali, which is huge.
So, yeah, I'm just a
Sounds
bit
a
crazy.
nightmare.
So I kind of managed to kind of get where I am because I just kind of fell in love with it and just really keep pushing.
Well, it must be very rewarding to go through all of that, not to mention what you have to do with not on location, but with the subject or the processing, the whole, production value, just the whole thing to get one shot. It must be very rewarding when you get, amazing shots like this and you see it on the tintype. It must be extremely satisfying.
I love it. It's especially the moment in the darkroom when you're developing it and you see the image come alive,
literally
that's
appearing in front of you.
And then you put it in a fixer and then you see, is it good? Is it good? Is it not? Did she move? Did she blink? Is it sharp or not? It's amazing. Like, it's different than working with digital medium when you kind of looking at it on the phone screen or a laptop, right? It's different feeling. And there's, it's just so much energy goes into just one frame, you know, and time and money and everything.
I love that. Well, I have to come and get my photo done by you.
You would look great, man.
Yeah, well, I'll obviously pay for it, but I'd love to come and see the whole process, and maybe we'll bring a camera with us to just, maybe, if with your permission, get some BTS, kind of show how you do it. I know you've already got videos out there as well, but I'd love to document it. Yeah, it'd be super cool because it's just so unique.
Yeah, it's very unique, and it's so much happening behind the scene. And that's one of the reasons I like to do videos, to show people what is behind that. Because people, if they only see the scan on Instagram or somewhere, they think, oh, that's nice editing, or it's like they have no idea. Like, even photographers, they don't know what is wet plate, what is the technique.
You could, with the amount of overlays and filters out there these days, you could do it digital. I mean, it wouldn't be the same, but if you saw that on Instagram, you didn't know who you were, what the process is, you would think, oh, that's if they put a filter on it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Does that worry you with today's digital world, with social media everywhere and photography just becoming saturated and almost homogenized with the same thing over and over with digital photography? Do you worry about kind of where photography is going, essentially, in the world?
Yeah, the development is like, it doesn't stop. It's interesting when you think of the history, because actually photography it's not that old. It's like 170 years to create image with light was like magic. It was like, like, wow, that was amazing. And because until then they only had paintings, if you want to get the image of the reality, you have to paint it, you have to engrave it, or record it like that. And then there came photography, create image with light. It was like, wow, there was magic. And now we take it as something totally normal. Like, everybody's photographer now. 150 years ago, the early photographers were scientists, like chemists, scientists. They were not nothing like a photographer, right? And they were like inventors. And now we are all photographers. Everybody has a phone, and everybody can record image with a light. So it's something very common now, and it's where it's going. The AI and everything, I'm not like too much in touch with that, but it makes me even more happy that I have this technique and doing something different than electronic image, because I think the just with the development of digital photography, the value of the craft came down so much, right?
Mm-hmm.
The accessibility of the technique, of the profession, and the value of that is decreasing, right? With how easy it is. If you shoot on digital, you don't care about the image will be there.
Yep.
You like me, I'm worried. Like every image, will it be there? Like, will it be okay? Will it actually appear or not? With digital, you don't think about that. So the accessibility of the craft is much easier, and with AI, it will be even more. I think the photography profession will slowly lose the need.
Yep.
A lot of clients will just type, "Hey, I want a girl with a sunset with a cocktail," and
Especially,
the AI will do it. Yeah.
Especially those lifestyle kind of photography genres. Yeah, I think
I don't know.
The way you describe this process, I think of NFTs being kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, but linked, because NFTs, you've kind of got this. It's non-fungible, right? This is non-fungible. You can't copy that, right? Unless you scan it and it's still not the original. You have one original, is one of one. That's it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. That's the great thing about the tintype.
Yeah. So I think that's.
But what is NFT? Actually, I don't really know, because everybody tells something different. Is it like one unique digital file?
Correct. Yeah. One unique digital file. If you sell it, you don't own that anymore. So you sell it. I sell you an NFT. You have that one and only digital file of that image. So it's.
But at the same time, like, because sometimes people say, "Hey, you should do NFTs," but I don't really understand this. But you can do like one, or you can do like 10,000 as well, or not, or
yeah, you can do multiple ones, but each one has its own specific.
Okay. So it's up to you.
Traceable identity, right? So it's not replicable. You can't replicate that one that you've bought. So it's very. And if people are telling you to do NFTs, I agree with them, because this is essentially a physical form of NFTs. It's one of one. It is unique.
It's like painting.
You can't swap another one for the same one. So, fascinating. If people want to get into this, where would they learn? Is it just a YouTube thing? Do you offer education, like workshops or anything? How can people learn if they go, "Oh yeah, I'd love to try this"? Where do they start?
The best to learn wet plate is, I would say, Europe, US, Australia. There's photographers who do wet plate. It's mostly like hobby photographers, not everybody doing it like professionally. There's not so many, but there are like some really great, like usually mostly portrait photographers or some landscape people who like specialize in that. But you should do a workshop. It's best to do a workshop with someone experienced in that, and to learn the technique. It's a lot of physical things, hand movements and how you work with the chemicals. Another separate thing is the mixing of the chemicals, which is like a separate job basically. I don't do workshop. I don't teach workshop. Sometimes people asking me, but I don't want to do it at this moment, or I don't even have enough chemicals for myself, and so I'm not at that stage to do that. I have some talking with like universities in Indonesia who are asking me also about this technique, because they know about it, but it's not common, and it's very rare in Indonesia to do this, because it's very hard and it's hard to source the chemicals. So maybe I will do some workshops with some art universities.
That'd be cool
in the future, but I don't offer it now. Like, I'm still learning myself.
Yeah, you just want to get your own shit.
And when I have chemicals, I want to do my art and everything. So, but you can learn it in Europe. This technique works the best in 4-season climate. In like the European summer, 25 degrees, it's good. 20 to 25, but when it's get over 25.
So why doesn't it work the same if you're in a climate controlled room in Bali? If it's climate controlled, humidity and temperature is controlled. Why?
I think it technically should, but I shoot outside with the sun, so I spend a lot of the time outside as well. And then it's also the humidity. It's not just the temperature where you can use aircon.
Okay.
But it's mostly because you use a lot of alcohol and ether in the solutions.
So it just
it's evaporating very quickly.
Okay.
And then everything changes.
So actually the problem is that the plate in the, when you take the shot, it's not always just the the development of it. It's like that time between getting the shot and getting
it's when
it
it's
into
drying,
the canvas.
but it's all the other things as well. And sometimes you don't know. I don't know because I'm like, I learned it in Europe.
Yeah.
I got good pictures. Actually, this image I did in Europe on my first workshop, and I had a Balinese girl in Prague, and I had a Balinese costume there from my friend.
Oh, right, okay.
So I shoot this in Prague actually, and so I was like, "Oh yeah, cool, I can do it." And then I buy the camera, managed to get chemicals in Indonesia, and I tried to do it here, and it didn't work. There was no image, nothing appears, or sometimes it would appear and just slowly disappear. I was like, "What's going on? What's going on?" Nobody knows. I have nobody to ask here, nobody doing it. I would be writing to guys in Europe, but they also don't really know because everybody knows that in hot climate, this works hard. When it's hot summer in Europe, it's also, for them, it's very hard. So even in 19th century, when the beginning of photography, when photographers start appearing, the Dutch government was interested in photography. Was sending like early photographers to Indonesia to document their colony at that time, right? Indonesia, the Dutch East Indies. Yep. So they were sending some photographers. The first of them, they failed. They would be doing it in Europe, but they would come here and they couldn't get images here because of the climate. So
right,
these chemical processes in tropical climate just somehow much harder. Yeah.
It must make it even more rewarding. Like I'm really happy for you, man. They're fucking cool photos.
Yeah.
I love hearing about the process. I really now want to come and see it.
Yeah.
So maybe we can arrange something for me to come over and watch you do it.
Definitely.
As we kind of near the end of the conversation, a couple more questions. One is from, as I mentioned to you before, we have a tradition here, a bit like another podcast I follow, but the guest I have writes a question for the next guest without knowing who they are. I have a question here from our previous guest, Stephen Kotas, and he asks, what does the word time mean to you?
What does the word time? Well, when I think of it in this just right now, I think about exposure time.
Just exposure.
Yeah, because that's in wet plate photography, you think a lot about time because you have the 20 minutes. It's roughly the time when you, for one click, one exposure to create one plate.
Okay, so 20 minutes is the process for one photo.
Basically, like from the setting up the model, from pouring the plate, from sensitizing it, you timing all the reactions there. So you pour the plate in some time, then it's like have to be half dry. You have to watch it. It's very live. It's time with every morning is different than afternoon. So you're watching the reaction on the plate, and then you put in a silver, and then you're creating another reaction, and you're timing it.
Every second is important.
Yeah, because if you sensitize it too long, it's oversensitized. It's not gonna work. If you undersensitize, it's not gonna work. Then you take it out. You have to run to the camera to have the model already there. Then you count. You look at the sky. You count the exposure time in seconds. Yeah, basically. And then again, the development is like when I put the developer, I slowly count in my head like 1, 2. I want to know how fast it's appearing. And you see first you come the highlights come first. The highlights coming first, and then see, okay, I see her highlight on her cheek or on the nose or something, and then you start to see the midtones coming up, and then when the shadows start appearing, it's kind of time to stop the development, to stop the reaction with the water, because even then it's like few more seconds it's kind of reacting.
It's still going, yeah.
So you need to time it rightly. And then fixing is kind of easy already. You just don't overfix it to bleach it kind of the image. But there's it's a lot about time.
A lot about time. It's a really good question, actually.
Yeah,
it's kind of quite a pertinent question for you. Yeah. Final question. We take a lucky dip out of these cards, and then if you just hand it to me, choose anyone.
All right.
Hand it to me, and I'll ask you the question. Okay, the question is, what is your definition of luck?
My definition of luck? I don't know if it's definition, but I when I think of this and my life and everything, like I find myself lucky to have found the purpose of my life, like with this technique.
Yeah.
Like it's really because I've been doing a lot of different things over the years. And I was never really so focused on one thing. Even now, I do some other businesses. I do the project in Aceh. Like we have a surf camp in the jungle, or I
cool.
do like I build villas sometimes. I do like interior design, architecture, like creative, like kind of
cool.
And I did travel guiding. I did a lot
Modeling.
of different, modeling, presenting, some acting, in soap operas, whatever. But like without the right detailed purpose of your life, you're just kind of floating around, and then so I feel very lucky to be able to find something that gives me so much meaning, and to be so sure about what I want to do for the next 20 years of my life. And I think it's not everybody's so lucky actually ever to find that, and so it gave me like kind of anchor on my life, and just kind of it's a very good thing to have.
Yep.
Do you have something like that?
Yeah, I mean, photography is definitely my purpose. I mean, there's nuances within that in terms of kind of what I want to do with photography. But yeah, I mean, without photography in my life, I would be lost for sure. And I went through those years where kind of, what am I doing? What's my meaning? What am I trying to do? How am I helping people? How am I helping society? Kind of going through that process of finding a purpose.
Yeah.
Photography came along, and that was just it, I love doing this, actually. I love podcasting. It's becoming much more a part of my purpose. It's not about the podcast. It's more, and we were talking about this before, just sitting across from another person, artist, whatever you want to label them, and just conversing, right? And talking. And in today's world, I think that I say this all the time, people around me get bored of hearing it, but the art of conversation, just being able to have those social skills and talk about something that maybe you not know about, and listening properly, and just being able to have a decent conversation for 10 minutes, let alone 2 hours or something, is so lost, especially with, I guess, the younger generation, or the digitized generation, because they're all just stuck on their phone, right? And we all do that to some respect, but this is certainly grown within my photography world as a bigger purpose, for sure. So I think the world needs it. So yeah.
Thanks for having me, and like be able to like talk about this. I love it because I love what I do. I don't actually get to talk about it too much.
Brilliant. I love what you do, and speaking of luck, I'm extremely lucky to have you here and be on the show. I hope everyone's learned something and been exposed. I mean, I knew of wet plate photography, I just didn't know about it, if you know what I mean. So I've learned a hell of a lot. So thanks for educating me, educating us, and it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. And I look forward to coming to your studio to actually see it.
Let's do a portrait, and it's so interesting, the behind the scene of that, and see everything with your eyes. You will see how the image is made. It's very interesting.
Well, until then, thanks so much.
Thank you, Matt.